The wind cut through Rachel's thin jacket like a knife. She pulled it tighter around herself, but it didn't help much. November in the city was brutal, especially when you had nowhere warm to go. She sat on the cold metal bench at the bus stop, her old duffel bag pressed against her legs. Everything she owned was in that bag now. Rachel checked her phone. The battery was down to 15%. She'd have to find somewhere to charge it tomorrow, maybe at the library again. The screen showed 6:47 p.m. The shelter didn't open its doors until 8, which meant another hour and 13 minutes of sitting in the cold. She watched people hurrying past, heads down against the wind. Everyone had somewhere to be, someone waiting for them, a warm house, a hot meal, a soft bed. 8 months ago, she'd been one of them. She'd had an apartment, a good job at the children's hospital, a life that made sense. Funny how fast everything could fall apart. Her mom's medical bills had started it. Stage 4 cancer didn't care that Rachel had already maxed out 3 credit cards trying to save her. When her mom passed, Rachel was so deep in debt she couldn't see daylight. Then she'd gotten sick herself, missed too much work, lost her job, lost her apartment, lost everything except what fit in one bag. Rachel was staring at her hands, trying to will some warmth into her fingers, when she heard a small voice beside her. "Hi, I'm Lily." She looked up to find a little girl standing there, maybe 7 years old, with dark curly hair pulled into 2 ponytails. She wore a purple jacket with butterflies on it and carried a backpack covered in unicorn stickers. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. "Hi, Lily," Rachel said, managing a smile. "Shouldn't you be with your parents?" "My daddy's still working. He said to wait right outside his building, but I saw a kitty and I followed it." Lily sat down on the bench like they were old friends. "Are you waiting for the bus?" "Something like that," Rachel said. She glanced around, looking for a frantic parent. "Does your dad know where you are?" Lily shrugged, swinging her little legs. "Probably not yet. He works a lot. He's an architect. That means he draws buildings." "I know what an architect is," Rachel said gently. "But honey, your dad is probably really worried." "We should go find him." "In a minute," Lily said. She tilted her head, studying Rachel with that unnervingly direct way kids have. "Are you homeless?" Rachel felt her cheeks flush. "That's not a polite question, sweetie." "My teacher says questions are how we learn," Lily said matter-of-factly. "And you have that big bag with all your stuff and your jacket has a hole in it and you look sad." "My friend Tyler's uncle is homeless. He lives in a tent by the river." Rachel didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The honesty of children could be brutal. "Yeah," she said finally. "I am." "That's sad," Lily said. She scooted closer and surprised Rachel by leaning against her arm. "You're cold. We can share warmth." That's what penguins do. Something cracked in Rachel's chest. When was the last time someone had touched her with kindness? Really touched her? Not just handed her $1 while avoiding eye contact. She carefully put her arm around the little girl. "You're a sweet kid, Lily. But we really need to find your dad. He's going to be scared." As if on cue, they heard a man's voice calling urgently. "Lily, Lily!" A man came running down the sidewalk, his tie loose, his dark hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Relief flooded his face when he saw them. "Lily! Oh, thank God!" He rushed up to the bench, then seemed to really see Rachel for the first time. His expression shifted, taking in the situation, but not with disgust or fear, with understanding. "I'm so sorry," he said to Rachel. "I turned my back for 2 minutes and she was gone. Thank you for staying with her." "She found me," Rachel said, gently nudging Lily toward her father. "She's okay. Just wanted to follow a cat." "It was orange," Lily announced, with white paws. The man, who looked to be in his late 30s, knelt down to Lily's level. "You scared me half to death. You know the rules. You stay right where I can see you. But the kitty, no buts." His voice was firm but loving. He hugged her tight, and Rachel felt that ache again watching them. A dad and his daughter. A family. The man stood up, keeping Lily's hand firmly in his. He looked at Rachel again, really looked at her, and she saw the moment he decided something. "Have you eaten dinner?" he asked. Rachel blinked. "What? Dinner? Have you had any?" He pulled out his wallet. "Please, let me buy you a meal. To thank you for keeping Lily safe. There's a diner right around the corner." "That's not necessary," Rachel said automatically. Pride was a hard thing to swallow even when you were starving. "Please," the man said. "I'm David, by the way. David Chen. And honestly, I'd feel better knowing you had a hot meal. It's freezing out here." "Daddy always says we should help people," Lily piped up. And you helped me by keeping me company. Rachel looked between them. The man seemed genuine, not like he was trying to show off or make himself feel good, just kind. And the little girl was still holding her hand now, trusting and warm. Okay, Rachel said quietly. Thank you. The diner was one of those old-school places with red vinyl booths and a counter with spinning stools. The warmth hit Rachel like a wave when they walked in, and she had to fight back tears. David led them to a booth, and Lily insisted Rachel sit next to her. Get whatever you want, David said, handing her a menu. Seriously, anything. Rachel's hand shook a little as she opened it. When had she last had a real meal in a real restaurant? She ordered a burger and fries and soup, suddenly ravenous. Lily got pancakes because, as she explained, breakfast food was good any time of day. David ordered coffee and a sandwich he barely touched. So, David said after the waitress left, I'm guessing you're not waiting for a bus. Rachel took a sip of water. The shelter opens at 8. I was killing time. How long have you been on the streets? 8 months. She didn't know why she was being honest. Maybe because Lily was coloring on her kids' menu between them, humming softly, making everything feel safer. I was a nurse. Pediatric nurse, actually. Worked at Children's Memorial for 12 years. David's eyebrows went up. What happened? So Rachel told him. Not everything, not the deepest parts that still hurt too much to touch, but the outline. Her mom's illness, the debt, her own health crisis. The way life could just collapse like a house of cards. I had pneumonia, she said. Missed 3 weeks of work. By the time I got better, they'd filled my position. I couldn't pay rent. Couldn't catch up. And once you're behind, she shrugged, it's hard to climb back. The food came, and Rachel had to force herself not to wolf it down. The burger was the best thing she'd tasted in months. Real food, hot and filling. Lily chattered between bites of pancakes, telling Rachel about her school and her friends and her hamster named Mr. Whiskers. Mommy gave him to me, Lily said, drowning her pancakes in syrup. Before she got sick. David's face tightened. Lily. It's okay, Daddy, the lady should know. Lily looked at Rachel. My mommy died 2 years ago. She had cancer too. I'm so sorry, Rachel said, meaning it deeply. Me too, Lily said simply. I miss her a lot. Daddy misses her too. He cries sometimes at night when he thinks I'm asleep. Lily, David said again, his voice rough. But Lily just kept going, with that brutal child honesty. That's why Daddy works so much. He says keeping busy helps, but I think he's lonely. And I'm lonely too sometimes. She looked between Rachel and her father, something calculating in those young eyes. You need a home and I need a mommy. The silence that fell over the table was deafening. Rachel's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. David looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Lily, that's not. You can't just, David stammered. But the little girl had said it, and now it hung there in the air between them. A crazy, impossible idea. A question wrapped in a statement. A door opening to something none of them had expected. Rachel felt frozen in place. She couldn't breathe properly. Had this 7-year-old just suggested what she thought she'd suggested? She looked at David, whose face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. Lily, sweetheart, you can't say things like that, David said, but his voice was gentle. He looked at Rachel with mortified eyes. I'm so sorry. She doesn't understand. I do understand, Lily interrupted, her little chin jutting out stubbornly. Rachel is nice and she was a nurse, so she knows how to take care of kids and she doesn't have a home. And we have that whole cottage in the backyard that nobody uses, and Daddy, you always say we should help people and… Lily, stop. David rubbed his face with both hands. Then he looked at Rachel again. I'm really sorry. She's been… Since her mom died, she says things, makes connections that aren't… It's okay, Rachel said quietly, though her heart was hammering. She's just a kid. Kids say stuff, but Lily wasn't backing down. It's not just stuff. It's true. Daddy's always sad and tired, and Mrs. Henderson from next door watches me after school. But she's old and falls asleep, and I'm lonely. And Rachel seems lonely too, and why can't we help each other? Rachel felt tears threatening. The simple logic of it from a child's mouth was almost beautiful. Why couldn't people just help each other? But the world didn't work that way. Things were complicated. You couldn't just invite a homeless person to live in your backyard because your daughter wanted a mother figure. Honey, Rachel said, touching Lily's hand, that's really sweet. But your dad doesn't know me. I could be anyone. He has to keep you safe. Are you a bad person? Lily asked directly. No, but, see, Daddy? She's not bad. David let out a long breath. He was quiet for a moment, looking at his daughter, then at Rachel, then at his coffee cup. Rachel could see him thinking, working through something in his head. She waited for the polite brush-off. The thanks but no thanks. The end of this strange, warm interlude before she went back to the cold. What's your full name? David asked suddenly. Rachel Martinez, she said, confused. Do you have ID? Any documentation? Rachel's stomach sank. Here it came. I have my driver's license. My nursing license, though it expired. I have some papers from the hospital where I worked. Recommendation letters, stuff like that. I kept it all. She'd kept it like a talisman, proof she'd been someone once. David pulled out his phone. Would you be willing to consent to a background check? Rachel's eyes widened. What? I know this is crazy, David said, speaking faster now like he'd made a decision and had to get it out before he changed his mind. I know we just met. I know this is probably the most impulsive thing I've ever considered. But Lily's right about one thing. We do have a cottage. My mother-in-law lived there before she needed more care and moved to an assisted living place. It's been empty for 6 months. David, you can't be serious, Rachel said, her voice shaking. I'm not saying anything permanent. I'm not making promises, but... He looked at his daughter, who was watching him with huge, hopeful eyes. But what if we tried something? A temporary arrangement. You'd have a safe place to stay. I'd have someone who could help with Lily when my work runs late, which happens a lot. No pressure, no strings, just people helping each other. Rachel couldn't speak. This felt like a dream, the kind she'd wake up from cold and disappointed. If your background check comes back clean, if your references from the hospital check out, would you consider it? David pressed. 1 month trial. See how it goes. If it doesn't work for any reason, no hard feelings. Why would you do this? Rachel whispered. You don't know me. David was quiet for a moment. My wife, Lily's mom, her name was Isabel. She was the kindest person I ever knew. She volunteered at homeless shelters, actually. Used to bring Lily with her sometimes when she was tiny. Isabel always said that the only difference between us and the people living on the streets was luck. Timing. 1 or 2 bad breaks. His eyes got shiny. She'd want me to do this. And honestly, I've been so focused on just surviving the last 2 years, on keeping it together for Lily, that I forgot how to do anything else. Maybe this is crazy. But maybe crazy is what we need. Lily grabbed Rachel's hand again. Please say yes. Please. Rachel looked at this man and his daughter, at their hopeful faces, at the possibility of warmth and safety and a chance to rebuild. Every instinct screamed that it was too good to be true. People didn't do things like this. There had to be a catch. I don't want charity, she said firmly. If I did this, I'd pay rent. Once I get back on my feet, once I'm working again, I'd pay. Deal, David said immediately. But first things first. Get stable, get healthy, then we talk about rent. And I wouldn't be a live-in nanny, Rachel continued, needing to set boundaries. I'd help when you needed it, sure, but I'm not staff. I need to find work, rebuild my career. Absolutely. I have a regular sitter, Mrs. Henderson, like Lily mentioned. You'd just be backup for emergencies or late nights. A neighbor who could help out. David extended his hand across the table. What do you say? Want to take a chance on us? Rachel stared at his hand. She thought about the shelter, about the cold nights, about the fear that had become her constant companion. She thought about this little girl who'd sat beside her on a bench and shared her warmth like a penguin. She thought about second chances and Isabel, a woman she'd never met but who had somehow led her to this moment. She shook his hand. Okay. Yes, let's try. Lily let out a squeal that made the whole diner look over. She threw her arms around Rachel's neck. You're going to live with us. We can have movie nights and I can show you Mr. Whiskers and we can bake cookies. Easy, Munchkin, David said, but he was smiling. Really smiling, maybe for the first time that evening. We're just trying it out. The next few days were a blur. David ran the background check, which came back clean. He called the hospital where Rachel had worked and spoke to her former supervisor, who gave her a glowing recommendation despite everything. He had his lawyer draw up a simple agreement, protecting everyone involved. Rachel moved into the cottage on a Tuesday afternoon. She'd expected something basic, but when David unlocked the door and showed her inside, she almost cried. It was small but perfect. A living area with a couch and TV, a tiny kitchen with a stove and refrigerator, a bathroom with a real shower, a bedroom with an actual bed already made up with fresh sheets. I had it cleaned yesterday, David said, hanging back by the door like he didn't want to intrude. There's basics in the kitchen, coffee and bread and stuff. If you need anything else, just let me know. Rachel set her duffel bag down and just stood there overwhelmed. A home, a real home, even if just for a while. Thank you, she managed. I don't know how to thank you. Just be good to Lily, David said simply. That's all the thanks I need. Lily came barreling in then, giving herself a full tour and declaring everything perfect. She showed Rachel where the extra blankets were, where the light switches were, where her own house was visible through the window. We're neighbors now, Lily announced. You can wave to me from your window and I can wave back. That first night, Rachel lay in the bed and stared at the ceiling. The mattress was soft. The room was warm. She was safe. For the first time in 8 months, she let herself cry. Not sad tears, but the kind that came from relief so profound it hurt. She woke up the next morning convinced it had been a dream. But no, she was still there in the little cottage. Sunlight streamed through the window. She could hear birds outside. She took a long, hot shower and stood under the water until it started to run cold. When she came out, there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find Lily standing there with a plate. Daddy made extra pancakes, Lily said. He makes them every Wednesday. Do you like blueberries? These have blueberries. Rachel took the plate, still warm. I love blueberries. Good. Daddy says you should come for dinner tonight. We're having spaghetti. Can you come? Yes, Rachel said, smiling. I can come. And just like that, slowly, carefully, a routine began to form. The first week felt strange, like Rachel was walking on eggshells. She kept expecting someone to realize they'd made a mistake, to tell her this couldn't possibly work. She stayed in the cottage mostly, venturing out only to use the little kitchen or sit on the small porch. David and Lily lived in the main house, a beautiful 2-story place with a garden and a tire swing hanging from an old oak tree. But Lily made it impossible to keep her distance. The little girl knocked on Rachel's door every morning before school, usually with some excuse. Did Rachel want to see her new drawing? Did Rachel know that butterflies tasted with their feet? Did Rachel want to walk with her to the bus stop? Rachel found herself saying yes more often than not. There was something healing about Lily's enthusiasm, her absolute certainty that Rachel belonged there. The child had no doubts, no second guesses. She'd decided Rachel was part of their lives now, and that was that. David was more reserved, more careful. He was polite, friendly even, but kept a respectful distance. He'd wave from his kitchen window when Rachel was out on her porch. He'd ask if she needed anything when he saw her. But he never pushed, never made her feel like she owed him anything beyond what they'd agreed. I'm not trying to be cold, he said one evening when Rachel came for dinner. Lily was upstairs getting changed and they had a moment alone. I just want you to feel comfortable. This is your space. No obligations beyond helping occasionally with Lily. I know, Rachel said, and I appreciate it, really. She did help with Lily and found she loved it. When David called one evening, stressed because a client meeting was running late, Rachel walked over to the main house and made dinner. Nothing fancy, just grilled cheese and tomato soup. But Lily ate it like it was a feast. They did homework together at the kitchen table, Lily's tongue poking out as she concentrated on her math problems. You're really good at this, Lily said, looking up from her worksheet. Mrs. Henderson always falls asleep during homework time. Rachel smiled. Well, I'm used to working with kids. That was my job, remember? Will you get another nursing job? Lily asked. I hope so. I've been applying places. Haven't heard back yet, but I'm trying. Daddy could help. He knows lots of people. Maybe, Rachel said, not wanting to ask for more than David had already given. We'll see. But David was already helping in ways Rachel didn't expect. He'd left a newspaper on her doorstep with job listings circled. He'd mentioned casually that his neighbor was a doctor at St. Mary's and they were hiring. He'd offered to review her resume if she wanted a second opinion. You don't have to do all this, Rachel told him one afternoon. She'd found him in the garden pulling weeds while Lily played on the swing. I know, David said, but Isabel always said if you're going to help someone, really help them. Not just surface stuff. Help them get back on their feet for real. He sat back on his heels, squinting up at her. Besides, you've been amazing with Lily. She's happier than she's been in months. You deserve good things, Rachel. Rachel felt her throat tighten. She wasn't used to people seeing her as someone who deserved things. For so long she'd felt invisible or worse, like something to be avoided. David's simple kindness undid her. "I'll take a look at that resume," she said, blinking back tears. "If you really don't mind." By the third week, something had shifted. Rachel didn't feel like a guest anymore. She felt like part of the rhythm of the household. She helped Lily bake cookies on a rainy Saturday, flour everywhere, laughter filling the kitchen. She sat on the couch during movie night, Lily tucked between her and David, watching some animated film about talking cars. She noticed things about David. The way he always made sure Lily ate vegetables even when she protested. The way he fell asleep on the couch after long days, his hand still holding whatever book he'd been reading. The sadness that lingered in his eyes even when he smiled. He was lonely, she realized. Just as lonely as she'd been, just in a different way. And she noticed things about the house. Photos of Isabel everywhere, beautiful and bright-eyed. Lily had her mother's smile. There were touches that were clearly Isabel's. A garden full of flowers, art on the walls, a warmth to the place that David was trying to maintain. "Do you want to talk about her?" Rachel asked one evening. They were doing dishes together after dinner, Lily already in bed. It had become a routine, this quiet time when they cleaned up together. David was quiet for a long moment. "Most people don't ask. They avoid mentioning her like it'll hurt less if we pretend she didn't exist." "That seems backwards," Rachel said. "It is." David dried a plate slowly. "Isabel was incredible. Funny, kind, always seeing the best in everyone. She made me better. Made me want to be better." He smiled sadly. "She would have loved this situation, you know. Would have been scheming ways to help you from day one. She was always bringing people home, people who needed help. I used to joke that our house had a revolving door. She sounds wonderful. She was, and I miss her every single day." He set the plate down. "But I'm starting to realize that missing her doesn't mean I have to stop living. Lily needs me present, not just going through the motions. And this, having you here, it's reminded me what it feels like to have life in the house again." Rachel didn't know what to say to that. She settled for touching his arm briefly, a gesture of understanding. Things got easier after that. More natural. Rachel helped David with the garden one weekend, learning which plants were Isabel's favorites so they could keep them alive. David helped Rachel practice for job interviews, playing the part of a tough hospital administrator while Lily watched and gave notes like a TV critic. "You're too nervous," Lily announced. "Just be yourself. You're great." Out of the mouths of babes, David said, grinning. Rachel got a call back from St. Mary's Hospital, then a second interview. Then 3 weeks after moving into the cottage, she got a job offer. Part-time to start, working in the pediatric unit 3 days a week. It wasn't full-time yet, but it was a beginning. She ran to the main house to tell them, knocking rapidly on the door. David answered, dish towel over his shoulder. "I got it," Rachel said, waving the email she'd printed at the library. "The job at St. Mary's, I start in 2 weeks." David's face split into a huge grin. "Rachel, that's incredible." Lily came running. "You got a job? Like a real job?" "Like a real job," Rachel confirmed. Lily hugged her tight. "See, I told you everything would work out. Now you can stay forever." "Lily," David said, but he was still smiling. "Can we celebrate?" Lily asked. "Can we get ice cream?" They went for ice cream at a little shop downtown. Lily got chocolate with gummy bears mixed in, a combination that made Rachel's teeth hurt just looking at it. David got vanilla. Rachel got strawberry and felt ridiculously happy about the simple act of choosing a flavor. "To new beginnings," David said, raising his cup. They clinked their cups together. And Rachel felt something warm spread through her chest. Hope. Real, genuine hope. She had a job. She had a safe place to live. She had people who cared about her. That night she couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety this time, but from excitement. She got up and sat on her little porch looking at the stars. The main house was dark except for one light in an upstairs window. David's room, probably. She wondered if he had trouble sleeping too. If he lay awake thinking about the strange twist of fate that had brought her into their lives. Her phone buzzed. A text from David. "Saw your light." "Can't sleep either?" She smiled and typed back, too excited. "Still can't believe this is real. It's real. You earned it. Proud of you." 3 simple words. Proud of you. Rachel felt tears prick her eyes again. When was the last time someone had been proud of her? When was the last time she'd given herself permission to be proud of herself? Thank you, she typed. For everything. For taking a chance. Thank you for saying yes. Lily's asleep with a smile on her face. Haven't seen that in a while. Rachel looked up at the window where the light glowed. In that moment, she felt connected to this man she barely knew, this family that had opened their door to her. It was terrifying and wonderful all at once. She went to bed feeling lighter than she had in years. Tomorrow she'd start planning for her new job. She'd figure out her schedule, get her old scrubs out of storage, remember what it felt like to be Nurse Rachel Martinez again. But tonight, she'd just be grateful. Grateful for bus stops and curious little girls and men brave enough to listen to their daughters. Grateful for second chances and small cottages and the possibility of home. 2 months into the arrangement, Rachel's life had transformed. She was working at St. Mary's 3 days a week, and they'd already hinted at moving her to full-time soon. Her paychecks were small, but they were hers. She'd opened a bank account, paid for her own groceries, started rebuilding her credit. She even bought new scrubs, tired of wearing the faded ones from before. With Lily, things were easy and natural. Rachel helped with homework, took her to the park, braided her hair before school. They'd developed their own traditions. Thursday nights were art nights where they'd spread newspapers over the kitchen table and paint or draw or make friendship bracelets. Lily had given Rachel at least a dozen bracelets at this point, each one precious. With David, things were more complicated. Not bad complicated, just complicated. They'd settled into a comfortable friendship. They had dinner together most nights now, trading cooking duties. They talked about everything. Books, music, their childhoods, their dreams. David told her about his architecture projects, showing her blueprints and getting genuinely excited when she asked questions. Rachel told him about her patients, the little victories and heartbreaks of pediatric nursing, but there were moments. Moments when their hands would brush while washing dishes and the contact would linger a second too long. Moments when Rachel would catch David looking at her across the dinner table with an expression she couldn't quite read. Moments when her heart would speed up for no good reason. She tried not to think about it. This was a temporary arrangement. David was her landlord, her friend, nothing more. She couldn't mess this up by developing feelings. She'd come too far to risk it. Everything changed on a Saturday afternoon in January. Rachel was in the cottage folding laundry when she heard a car door slam. Then angry voices. She looked out the window to see a woman storming up David's driveway, a designer purse over her shoulder, fury in every line of her body. Rachel didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the cottage window was open a crack and the woman's voice carried, "Are you insane, David? A homeless woman? Living on your property? Around my niece?" Rachel's stomach dropped. She moved closer to the window, barely breathing. David's voice was calmer but firm. "Patricia, you need to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Mom called me, told me what you'd done. I had to hear it from her, not from you." Patricia's voice was shrill. "Do you have any idea how dangerous this is? You don't know this person. She could be anyone. An addict, a criminal. She's none of those things. Rachel is a trained nurse. She's been amazing with Lily. You ran a background check, great. That doesn't tell you everything. People like that, they're manipulative. They take advantage. She probably saw you coming a mile away, a lonely widower with a child and money." Rachel felt sick. She wanted to stop listening but couldn't make herself move. "That's enough," David said, his voice hard now. "You don't know what you're talking about. I know you're being reckless. I know that if this woman harms Lily in any way, if she steals from you, if she brings God knows what kind of people around, I will call Child Protective Services so fast your head will spin. You wouldn't. Try me. I promised Isabel I'd look after Lily. I'm not going to stand by while you put her in danger for some misguided charity case." Rachel's hands were shaking. She should have known this was too good to be true. Should have known that someone would see her for what she really was, a risk, a liability, a problem. She heard the front door open. Lily's voice bright and happy. "Aunt Patricia, what are you doing here?" "Hey, sweetheart. I came to visit you. Did you meet Rachel yet? She's so nice. She taught me how to make brownies and she knows all about animals and she reads me stories and—" "Why don't you go inside, honey? I need to talk to your dad." "But now, Lily?" The door closed. Rachel sank onto her couch, her mind racing. She should pack, should leave before this got worse. Patricia was right about one thing. Rachel didn't belong here. This wasn't her family. She'd been playing pretend, and now reality was crashing back in. She started pulling clothes out of the dresser. Her hands moved automatically, shoving things into her duffel bag, the bag that had been empty for months that she'd almost forgotten about. A knock at the door made her freeze. "Rachel?" Lily's voice. "Can I come in?" Rachel quickly wiped her eyes and opened the door. Lily stood there looking worried, her eyes red like she'd been crying. "Hey, sweetie. What's wrong?" "Aunt Patricia is being mean to Daddy. She's yelling about you." Lily stepped inside and saw the duffel bag. Her face crumpled. No, you can't leave. You can't, Lily, please don't go, please. I heard what she said. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know how nice you are and how you make everything better and how Daddy smiles now when he didn't used to." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "You can't leave me too. Everyone leaves me." Rachel's heart shattered. She knelt down and pulled Lily into a hug. "Oh, honey, your mom didn't leave you on purpose. She loved you so much. But she's still gone. And if you go too, I'll be all alone again. You have your dad. He loves you more than anything. I know. But it's not the same. Before you came, everything was so sad all the time. Now it's good. We laugh and we do fun things, and Daddy doesn't work all the time anymore. Please don't let Aunt Patricia ruin everything." The door opened again. David stood there looking exhausted. His tie was loose, his hair messy. "Lily, I told you to stay in the house." "She's packing," Lily said accusingly. "She's leaving because Aunt Patricia was mean." David's eyes found the duffel bag. Something in his expression cracked. "Rachel, no. You don't have to leave." "Yes, I do," Rachel said quietly. She stood up, keeping one hand on Lily's shoulder. "Patricia's right. This was crazy from the start. I'm a stranger. You took a huge risk, and it's not fair to you or Lily. Don't I get a say in what's fair to me?" David stepped into the cottage. "Patricia is protective. She's Isabel's sister, and she thinks she's honoring her by protecting Lily from anything that scares her. But she's wrong about you." "How do you know?" Rachel's voice broke. "How do you really know I'm not what she said? Some manipulative person taking advantage? Because I have eyes. Because I've watched you with my daughter for 2 months. Because I've seen how hard you work, how you've rebuilt your life, how you treat everyone with kindness even though life treated you like garbage." David moved closer. "Because I know you, Rachel. Maybe not everything, not your whole history, but I know who you are. And who you are is someone good. But she could call CPS. She could make trouble. Let her try. I have documentation of everything. Your background check, your employment, references from the hospital. She has nothing but suspicion and prejudice." David's jaw set. "I told her that if she can't respect my decisions about my family, she needs to leave. And I told her you're part of this family now, whether she likes it or not." Rachel stared at him. "You said that?" "I did. Because it's true." He looked at Lily, then back at Rachel. "You've been living in the cottage for 2 months like you're visiting, like you might leave any minute. But the truth is, somewhere along the way, you stopped being a guest. You became part of our lives. Part of our daily routine. Part of our family." "Daddy's right," Lily said, squeezing Rachel's hand. "Your family. Family doesn't leave just because someone's mean." Rachel felt tears spilling over. She'd been on her own for so long, fighting to survive, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to have people fight for her. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm scared that I'll mess this up. That I'll let you both down. That I don't deserve this." David reached out and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "We're all scared. I'm scared every day that I'm failing, Lily. That I'm not enough without Isabel. But we're figuring it out together. That's what families do. Will you stay?" Lily asked. "Please?" Rachel looked at these two people who had changed her life, who had seen her at her lowest and offered kindness instead of judgment, who had given her not just a roof over her head but hope, purpose, something worth fighting for. "Yeah," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'll stay." Lily threw her arms around Rachel. David joined the hug, and for a moment they stood there, the three of them holding on to each other. A family formed not by blood or by law, but by choice, by kindness, by love. Spring came slowly, then all at once. The garden exploded with color, Isabel's flowers blooming like she'd planned it from wherever she was now. Rachel helped Lily plant new seeds, teaching her about patience and growth and how sometimes beautiful things come from dirt and darkness. Rachel was full-time at the hospital now. She'd been promoted to a senior position in the pediatric unit, and her coworkers had become friends. Real friends. the kind who invited her to happy hours and birthday parties. She wasn't invisible anymore. She existed solidly and completely in the world again. But more than that, she existed here, in this house with David and Lily. The cottage had become truly hers. She'd hung pictures on the walls, bought a new lamp, filled the bookshelf with paperbacks, but she spent most of her time in the main house anyway. It just felt natural, felt like home. Things with David had shifted too, though neither of them had named it yet. He'd started finding excuses to touch her. A hand on her back as he passed her in the kitchen, brushing her hair from her face when she was focused on something, holding her hand a moment too long when he helped her up from the couch. She caught him staring sometimes with a look that made her stomach flip. Rachel knew she was in love with him. Had probably been falling for months now. But she was terrified to say anything. What if he didn't feel the same? What if she'd misread everything? What if admitting it would ruin what they'd built? It was Lily who finally pushed things forward because of course it was. They were having dinner on a warm April evening, eating on the back patio while the sun set. Lily had been unusually quiet, pushing her pasta around her plate. "What's up, Munchkin?" David asked. "You've barely touched your food." "I have a question," Lily said seriously. "But I don't want you to be mad." "We won't be mad," Rachel assured her. "What is it?" "Tommy at school said that his dad has a girlfriend, and that means his dad kisses her and stuff." Lily wrinkled her nose at the kissing part. "And I was thinking that maybe Daddy could have a girlfriend too, because you're lonely sometimes, Daddy, even though you try to hide it." David's fork clattered onto his plate. "Lily, that's not really something you need to worry about." "But I do worry, and I was thinking that Rachel would be a really good girlfriend for you. She's pretty and nice and she already lives here and we all love each other, so it makes sense." Lily looked between them with complete 7-year-old logic. "Right?" Rachel felt her face burning. She couldn't look at David. "Lily, sweetheart, it's not that simple." "Why not? Do you not like Daddy?" "No, I do like him very much." And Daddy, do you like Rachel?" David cleared his throat. Rachel finally risked a glance at him and found him looking directly at her, something intense in his eyes. "Yes," he said quietly. "I like Rachel very much, see?" Lily said triumphantly. "So you should be together. That's what people do when they like each other." "Lily, grown-up relationships are complicated," David said. "Rachel and I have a good thing going as friends. We don't want to mess that up. But what if it could be even better?" Lily pressed. Then she stood up. "You know what? I'm going to my room. You two should talk. Without me." She picked up her plate and marched inside, leaving them alone. The silence stretched. Rachel could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. A bird sang somewhere in the garden. The sun painted everything golden. "That was subtle," David finally said. Rachel laughed, a bit breathless. "About as subtle as she's ever been." "Rachel, David stopped, started again. "She's not wrong." "About how I feel," Rachel's heart stopped. "She's not?" "No." David set down his napkin and turned to face her fully. "I've been trying not to feel this way. You came here needing help, needing stability. The last thing you needed was me developing feelings and making things complicated. But Lily's right. I like you. More than like you. I think about you all the time. I look forward to coming home because you're here. I find excuses to spend time with you. And I know it's probably not what you want. I know you might just see me as a friend or a landlord or David." Rachel reached across and took his hand. "Stop, I feel the same way." He blinked. "You do?" "Yes, I've been falling for you for months. But I was scared. Scared that I'd imagined it. Scared that admitting it would ruin everything. You've given me so much. A home, a job, a family. I didn't want to risk that by wanting more." David's thumb traced circles on her palm. "So we've both been dancing around this, apparently." "That's kind of ridiculous." "Very ridiculous," Rachel agreed. She felt giddy, light. "So what do we do now?" David smiled. The real smile that reached his eyes and made him look years younger. "Well, my daughter thinks we should be together, and I've learned she's usually right about these things. She is pretty wise. So maybe we should listen to her." David stood up and pulled Rachel to her feet. They were close now, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Rachel Martinez, would you maybe want to go on a date with me? A real date, not just dinner at home?" "Like where?" Rachel asked, her voice soft. "I don't know. Dinner? Movie? We could go back to that diner where we met. Full circle. I'd like that, yes." David's smile grew. Then slowly, carefully, he leaned down and kissed her. It was gentle and sweet and perfect. Rachel felt something settle into place inside her, like a puzzle piece finally finding its spot. They broke apart to see Lily's face pressed against the kitchen window, grinning like she'd won the lottery. "We have an audience," David said. "She's going to be insufferable about this." Completely insufferable. But they were both laughing. Lily came running out, jumping between them. "Does this mean Rachel is your girlfriend now? Does this mean she's going to stay forever?" "If she wants to," David said, looking at Rachel. "I want to," Rachel said. The weeks that followed were like a dream. They went on their date to the diner, sitting in the same booth where everything had started. They held hands across the table. They talked about the future, about possibilities, about taking things slow but also admitting what was already obvious to everyone. They were building something real. Rachel moved some of her things into the main house, though she kept the cottage as her own space. "I like having a place to retreat to," she explained. "Somewhere that's just mine." David understood. He understood everything about her, it seemed. Her need for independence, her fear of losing what she'd gained, her gratitude mixed with guilt about how her life had changed. "You don't owe me anything," he'd tell her when she worried she was taking too much. "This isn't charity. This is us building a life together. You give just as much as you take." 6 months after their first kiss on a warm October evening, they went back to the bus stop where it had all started. The same bench, the same wind, but everything else different. "What are you thinking?" David asked, his arm around her shoulders. "That life is strange," Rachel said. "A year ago I was sitting here with nothing. No hope, no future, just cold and fear. And then this little girl sat down next to me. Best decision she ever made, wandering off." "Don't encourage her," Rachel said. But she was smiling. "I'm thinking about how one moment can change everything. How kindness can literally save a life." David pulled her closer. "You saved us too, you know. Lily and me. We were just existing before you came. Going through the motions. You brought life back into our house. We saved each other. Yeah, we did." They sat there as the sun set, watching people hurry past to their homes and families. Rachel thought about Isabel, the woman she'd never met but whose legacy had made all of this possible. She thought about second chances and bus stops and little girls with unicorn backpacks who saw the world with perfect clarity. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lily, who was at a friend's house. "Are you guys being mushy at the bus stop? Don't forget you promised to help me with my science project tonight." Rachel showed David and they both laughed. "We should go," David said. "We have a science project to do." "We do," Rachel agreed. "We have a home to go to." And that word home felt right in a way it never had before. Not a place she was borrowing or a temporary stop, but home. Real and solid and hers. They walked back hand in hand, toward the house where Lily would be waiting, where dinner would be made and homework would be done and life would continue in all its ordinary, extraordinary beauty. Rachel looked back once at the bus stop, giving it a silent thank you. Then she turned forward toward her future and didn't look back again.